Welcome to my channel, detailing events throughout the decades. 1999. Mont Blanc Tunnel Fire. The Mont Blanc Tunnel is a road that goes under the Mont Blanc mountain in the Alps. It links France with Italy. It was on the morning of March 24 when a Belgian truck carrying flour and margarine entered the French side of the tunnel. The truck was several kilometers into the tunnel, when the driver of the truck noticed that cars coming in the opposite direction were flashing their headlights at him. He just happened to glance into his mirror when he saw smoke coming out from under his cabin. Gilbert de Grave, the truck driver, quickly stopped his truck, which was in the middle of the tunnel, and attempted to tackle the fire, but the flames from under the cabin forced him back. Tunnel employees activated the fire alarms and stopped any further traffic from entering the tunnel, but there were several cars, vans and trucks that had already entered the tunnel prior to the traffic being stopped. Some of the cars did manage to turn around and try and make their way out of the tunnel, but this was proving difficult with the now thick smoke filling the tunnel. There was only a narrow space to turn around in, so any larger vehicles were now stuck in the tunnel. Drivers who were stuck in the tunnel decided to sit and wait for rescue. Most of these people were unaware of the impending situation which was unfolding. The tunnel's ventilation system was forcing toxic smoke back down the tunnel. Vehicles' engines quickly stalled from the lack of oxygen, including the fire engines which had entered the tunnel to tackle the fire. Drivers attempted to vacate their vehicles and make their way to the refuge points within the tunnel, but were quickly overcome by the smoke and fumes. The tunnel was now plunged into darkness. 2 fire engines from Chamonix, which had responded to the fire, were blocked by the abandoned vehicles and were unable to get towards the fire. The fire crews abandoned the fire engine and took refuge in the emergency fire rooms in the tunnel. Tires and fuel tanks now began to explode as the fire began to get worse. Fire crews who had taken refuge in the tunnel were not rescued for several hours. 15 firefighters who had been trapped were said to have serious conditions, with their commanding officer dying later in hospital. The fire is said to have continued to burn for at least 53 hours, due to the margarine in the truck, which was said to be equivalent to an oil tanker. Around 40 vehicles had been trapped inside the tunnel, with the situation being compounded as fresh air was pumped in from the Italian side, helping feed the fire and forcing toxic smoke through the length of the tunnel. 27 people died while still in their vehicles, with another 10 dying as they tried to escape on foot. It has been reported that those who had died were reduced to ash and bone due to the intense temperature within the tunnel. Only 12 people managed to survive. After the fire, it took around 5 days for the tunnel to cool down, so that repairs on the tunnel could begin. The tunnel remained closed for 3 years as the repairs were carried out. Major changes were introduced to help prevent such a disaster from ever happening again. A site for cargo inspections was created on either side of the tunnel. Now all trucks are inspected before they enter the tunnel. Also in the tunnel now are extra security bays, a parallel escape shaft, and a fire station in the middle of the tunnel. On January 31, 2005, 16 people, along with some companies, were tried for manslaughter. Included in these were Gilbert de Grave, the truck driver whose truck caused the fire, and Volvo, the truck's manufacturer. The cause of the fire is still disputed. It is believed that a cigarette stub had been thrown out of a vehicle and entered the truck's engine induction snorkel above the cabin, setting the air filter on fire. Others blame poor maintenance of the truck's engine. It is hard to determine the real cause as the truck was burnt so badly in the fire. It was on July 27, 2005 that 13 defendants were found guilty. These sentences ranged from 6 months in prison, suspended prison sentences, or just a fine. Gilbert de Grave, the truck driver, received a 4-month suspended sentence. €13.5 million were paid to a fund to help the families of those who had died in the fire. With all the new safety measures in place, we hope that a disaster like this does not occur ever again in the Mont Blanc tunnel. forever remembering the 38 people who died in this tragic fire. May you always be remembered. Thank you for watching and learning about these events which occurred throughout the decades. Please subscribe to my channel, to view other tragic events, which are now part of history.